there will be people who ride this year, there's people that rode last year, who, had they been diagnosed with the exact same cancer and the exact same diagnosis when Pelotonia started, or even 5 or 10 years ago, might not be here, right? We might not actually be alive. And here they are at opening ceremony.
This is the James Cancer-Free World podcast. I'm Steve Wartenberg, and my guest is Joe Apgar. Joe is the CEO of Pelotonia. He is a cancer survivor and an advocate for cancer patients and for cancer research. The 17th Pelotonia is coming up in a few weeks, and so far Pelotonia has raised more than $300 million, and every single dollar has funded game-changing, life-saving research here at The Ohio State University Comprehensive Cancer Center and James Cancer Hospital. Pelotonia is an amazing and an emotional experience for the thousands of people who are part of this ever-growing community, and Joe and his team continue to come up with new ways to get people involved, and Joe will fill us in on why this is important and some of the new features they have in store for us in 2025. Welcome back to the podcast.
Yeah, thanks for having me. Good to be back.
Yeah, it's only 2 months till Pelotonia, or less than 2. You probably know exactly how many hours.
I think right now it's 46 days.
46 days. Yeah. So we're in year 17, and Pelotonia has been an incredible success right from the start. And there's so many fundraising bike rides and runs, and you have risen to the top as one of the biggest in the country. And what's kind of the secret? What has enabled Pelotonia to be so successful?
Yeah, I think it's a couple things. I think we've got a great cancer center here, right? It would be a whole lot harder, building this event and having the community raise money for an average cancer center, right? So we've got one of the best cancer centers in the country, which, ultimately is, I think, what really helps. We've got a great community, both here in Central Ohio, but throughout sort of the country and the world, of people that participate. And I think, Pelotonia started as this separate and unique brand, right? It had a kind of a funny name from the beginning, but bright colors and this green and the arrows that you see. And in a lot of ways, over time, it's become sort of a lifestyle brand. But when we think about our brand, we want it to mean a lot of different things, but to us, it's like the execution of an experience. And so that everything you see Pelotonia touching, or every time you see the arrow, it's something that is just done at a really high level, and every detail is thought through. And one of our core values as an organization is never settle, right? Something can always be better, something can always be tweaked, something can always be improved. And how do you approach that from a really positive and optimistic standpoint? And that's what we try to do every day.
It's interesting. They talk about quality of care here at the James, and you talk about rider experience, and it's the same thing. Yeah, making it a great experience for everyone involved. Yeah.
I mean, you think that the patient experience at James is exceptional, right? Across the country, across the world, it's, I think, near the top or at the top of a lot of the different rankings. And we think about that too. So, like, what is the experience that you want people to have? And I think it's same goes in the hospital. It's like, how do you put yourself in the shoes of someone walking in the door or walking to the start line for the first time, and design the experience around that?
One thing I've noticed that I think has helped with the success is that so many of the doctors, nurses, staff ride and volunteer, and we get to talk to them. They thank us. We see their passion like firsthand, and that, I don't know if that was intended consequences or unintended, but that connection between the James and the community through Pelotonia, I think, is like one of the secrets of your success.
I mean, designed from the beginning. Yeah. So from the very start, one of the principles of Pelotonia, and this is really driven by Dr. Mike Caligiuri, one of the founders of Pelotonia, but how do you get that real engagement from the physician and researcher standpoint? It's having them participate. And hundreds of them, right? Physicians and researchers both are out there on the route, wearing a jersey, volunteering. And I think if you were to hone in on a single component of why Pelotonia has been successful, that would rise near the top.
And they just talk to people and tell them who they are and share stories, and it's really,
and they're superheroes to people, right? I mean, I've heard stories of people They came up to the start line and they looked to their left or looked to their right, and it was the surgeon that took care of their father-in-law, saved their father-in-law's life, and they got to ride 100 miles with that person. Like, those are the stories you hear about, and like those are the meaningful moments that I think have created this brand.
Yeah. And so another secret is you're continuing to evolve and change things and add things. So before we start going through the list of the things you've done over the years, why is it important to sort of not settle for what's worked and always work to do new things?
We've been really cognizant and really thoughtful about, we're going to just listen. Like, the biggest asset we have is our ears. And we get an amazing amount of feedback from people, good, bad, sort of everything in between, and improvements that we can make, new things that we can do. And the amount of effort it takes to create and design and think something up all by yourself and try to bring it to life is tremendous, right? And so if you have thousands of people bringing you ideas all year long and you're listening really well, things start to rise to the top, and it makes our job easier. We don't have to be a rocket science. We don't have to figure out what the future of endurance sports and events looks like. We can just listen to hear what people want. What are we missing that people wish they had? It goes from everything from the food to the gifts to the type of event we're building to how we build lines, how we do bus transport, how we do bike transport. Everything in between has been improved, changed as a result of feedback. And it's part of the reason I ride, too. Is you want to go out there and experience, the food and the restrooms and the lines or no lines and the route and all that stuff. So it's really, really important.
Well, you mentioned route, and let's start with that, with changes. What will be the routes this year, and how has it sort of evolved the past couple of years? Let's not go back to the beginning, because that's evolved so much that would take an hour just to do that. But what's recent changes, and what's the route structure this year?
Yeah, route structure looks similar to last year. We've got 24 from downtown Columbus to New Albany. We've got a 50 from downtown Columbus to New Albany, and then we've got our 100 on Saturday, which goes from downtown to Kenyon. We've got about a 65 mile ride that goes from New Albany to Kenyon. So that's what Saturday looks like. And then Sunday, similar to last year, 30-mile loop route, start and finish in New Albany, and then 90-mile return from Kenyon to New Albany.
Now, not everyone rides,
Yep.
And one of the new, well, it's not even new anymore, but this Challenger concept, which has evolved over the years. Explain that and kind of where it's at now and where you see it going.
Yeah. Where I see it going is hopefully evolving. And so anyone that's listening to this that has ideas for Challenger, I want to hear them. This really was born out of Virtual Rider platform. So when we launched in 2009, that first ride, there was a virtual ride component, which I think actually confused a lot of people back then. It was,
because you thought you would be something like on a Peloton
machine. Do I have to be inside
on
a stationary bike? Does it mean I can be in Florida on vacation and do my own sort of ride? And what it really was intended for was a do-it-yourself. We want you, ideally, to do something, some act of kindness or activity or physical activity, to inspire your network to donate. And what the science really behind peer-to-peer fundraising is, it's not just walking around, with a can and asking people for money, right? It's like, I'm going to do X. Will you donate as a result? That sort of X piece is really important. And so Pelotonia, we've got this amazing ride weekend. That's the X for a lot of people. I'm going to do the 50-mile ride on Pelotonia. I'm raising money for cancer research. Will you donate? The idea of having that event makes the fundraising actually way, way simpler. There's a lot of big organizations around the country that have very structured, DIY programs. Leukemia Lymphoma Society. They leverage other events, team in training to go do another event. And so that was, I think, the idea really behind Virtual Rider was, you're inspired to fundraise. How are you going to fill in the X? What are you going to do? And some people, it was nothing. They were just going to write their story and share it on social and fundraise. But we kept hearing feedback over and over and over, confusion. Hey, am I supposed to get on a bike and ride? I'm going to be in Florida. Is that okay if I'm still a virtual rider? It was, we were always trying to meet that with, look, you can do whatever you want. We just want you to fundraise, which you sort of miss out on some of the experience too that way, right? So when COVID happened in 2020, we couldn't have our physical event. and we pivoted the entire structure of the event to this challenger platform. So could we, get people primarily thinking about people that were riding year after year, weren't going to be able to ride an event that year. What could we do to motivate them to fundraise? That was our goal. And we did a bunch of focus groups and kind of came to this conclusion that what people were telling us was what the virtual rider platform had been all along, which was just let me build my own thing, and I'm going to tell my friends and family network about it. I'm going to, I did the 100-mile ride from Columbus to Cincinnati on the bike path. That was my Pelotonia that year. And so we transitioned the entire structure of Pelotonia that year into this challenger platform. And so this is my challenge. It was just the rebranded virtual rider component. We updated our website to be able to add what your actual challenge was on the page. And then when we came out of COVID, we kept the challenger moniker instead of reverting back to virtual rider. I still think there's a lot of confusion behind it. I still get a lot of questions about what am I supposed to do? How am I supposed to engage in this? And so it's probably one of our top 3 priorities as we think about the future in terms of how do we activate this channel of potential fundraising to make it, I think, really fun, inspirational, make the people that are doing it feel really engaged. That's a really important piece. You're not going to keep people long term if they don't feel engaged. But we also know everyone doesn't want to get on a bike and ride.
Yeah, so people could have a challenge. It could be, I'm going to have a fundraising ice cream party. I'm going to have a fundraising yard sale. I'm going to walk 100 miles in May. Or any sort of challenge to fundraise, to do a physical event. And physical events are good because we want people to be active. So I hadn't realized that there was a little confusion. So it's good we can clear that up. And that if you're a rider, you also get to fill in when you do your profile. You say you can put a challenge for the year.
In addition to your route, and we see a lot of that.
So, but riders most likely are not going to also sign up to be challengers.
They don't. No,
because they're fundraising.
They're fundraising. They're doing the whatever route they're doing.
So it's for my nephew who lives in Chicago who wants to do something, who can't come here for the ride weekend. He can say, I'm going to ride to Lake whatever and back, and he'll then ask his friends and family for donations.
And so how do you make that person feel engaged, not only in the mission should be the easy part, right? They're coming to this because there's some cancer connection, but how do you make them feel engaged in Pelotonia's experience? And it's hard, right? Opening ceremony is such a huge piece of the physical experience. They're probably not coming in for opening ceremony. And so, the team component's really important. So most of our challengers are on a team, and most of those teams that challengers are on a corporate team, right? Because they're hearing it around the office. They want to do that, and they get inspired by a colleague or whatever it is. And so there's huge opportunity for us there.
Volunteers, you can't have a Pelotonia without.
Nope.
I forget the number. Is it over
3,000?
Wow. Yeah. So I don't know if there's anything new, but just talk about the importance of volunteers.
There's no Pelotonia without volunteers. I mean, simple as that. I think volunteering is the best way to come experience Pelotonia if you're really nervous about bike riding or fundraising, to just come feel the spirit of what the event's about. Volunteer at opening ceremony, volunteer at a rest stop or a finish line, and just see people come through, see people finish on their bikes. It's people giving their time. It's one of the ultimate gifts you can give, right? It's like your time, your talent, your treasure, and people giving their time for Pelotonia is so important. What we've seen this year is a massive increase in volunteerism.
Oh, great!
And the rate at which people have signed up. I mean, we're almost full in terms of our capacity for volunteers this early, which has never happened. And I think a lot of things have driven it. I think, Pelotonia is a place that, it's inspirational, it's hopeful, it's high energy, and I think people are searching and seeking that experience out now more than ever. And I think we're benefiting from that. Groups of volunteers, so a community group, Peloton or a corporate team, volunteering together sort of as a group has become really popular in a way that we've really structured a lot of the volunteering, and so that's been fantastic. We've seen just corporate groups take over a rest stop or a spirit station.
Yeah.
And so it's super fun, and it's my favorite thing that we've done for the volunteers over the last couple of years is, and a lot of people haven't noticed this, but the volunteers have, which there's a spot on the volunteer t-shirt now to write why you volunteer.
Oh.
And so, you've
I
seen
haven't
all
noticed.
these jerseys over
Yeah.
the years that say I ride for, and it's a blank space, and people do really fun creative stuff, airbrush or just writing a Sharpie. If you pay attention on Ride Weekend this year, you'll see a ton of those t-shirts filled out.
Yeah.
And it's really special because there's a ton of survivors that volunteer.
Yes.
And there's been no other way for them to share that, right? Unless you talk to them. Hey, why do you volunteer? And I've had so many conversations with volunteers that, they're a 5-year survivor or a 20-year survivor, and the outlet and the opportunity to volunteer for them is so meaningful. And we need to make sure that that part of the experience is just as engaging, is just as meaningful as riding your bike 100 miles. It should be. To these people, it might be the most important thing they do all year.
Yeah, by having them have the opportunity to write something is going to lead to conversations and connections, and people are going to start talking. And I've been doing it long enough that I know some of the volunteers here. Like every year at registration, there's a married couple who I've gotten to know. I have them register me, and we chat for a while and catch up, and I see them every year in the registration.
Yeah,
tent.
there's a lot of retention in some of the spots,
and I'll see the same people at the rest stops, and it's you're right. Couldn't do it without volunteers.
Yeah, I mean, there's the number of volunteers that predate all of the people on staff. Right? If you think about that, right, we'll have a bunch of people that are 17, 16, 15-year volunteers in the same location, same spot, and look, they know a lot more than I do about what they're supposed to be doing and all of this stuff. So they're a wealth of knowledge, but their connection to the mission is as strong as anyone's.
Okay, that was a great start. We're going to take a rest stop, and we'll be right back to talk to Joe about some more changes in Pelotonia 2025.
When it comes to your cancer diagnosis, the choice for your care is clear.
And when you choose the James at Ohio State,
you're opting for care from a highly specialized team dedicated to treating one type of cancer, yours.
Where more than 1,700 scientists are working on new treatments and new hope for every form of cancer.
You're making the choice to have the most advanced treatments, many of which were developed right here.
For your cancer care, the choice is clear. The James at Ohio State.
We're back with Joe Apgar. We're talking about Pelotonia and some of the changes. One of the biggest changes the past couple years was adding gravel rides.
Yeah.
Gravel rides are a big new trend in cycling. So tell us about the idea and where you are with gravel rides.
A lot of the credit goes to a guy named Eric Tippett. He works at JP Morgan. He's an amazing endurance cyclist. He's a big gravel rider. And it's probably 2021, I rode into the James rest stop with him, which was at, I think, one of the Granville schools back then. And he and I started talking about it. He wrote me an email. We kept talking about it. And we basically realized no one on our team knew anything about gravel cycling. We could, of course, read on the internet and, watch YouTube and realize, like, this is a up-and-coming trend. Seemed really interesting from an adventure, fun factor. We had no idea. We'd never been to a gravel race. Gravel riding is really gravel racing. I mean, most gravel rides are timed races. And so we assembled a group of 5 or 6 people in the community that had been mountain biking, gravel riding, that knew people, had a network in this area. And over the course of a year, developed what ended up being the first gravel day, which was 2023. Get to gravel day, weather is like perfect. I mean, it was like 55 and foggy in the morning, got to 75 and sunny. Like, you couldn't have picked a better weather day. We had great turnout.
Pelotonia is early August. Gravel day is...
So this was mid-September.
Mid-September, and it's since changed.
This year it'll be October 4th.
Okay, yeah.
So it's the fall, right? And the vibe, it's smaller. right? It's, a couple hundred people. It's the same finish line and start line, so it's a loop ride. So logistically, it's a way simpler execution for our team. And we were down in Hocking Hills. We started in Nelsonville. The scenery is amazing. I stopped probably 20 times on my ride to take pictures. Partially, I wanted a break because it's hard. Yeah, there's a little bit of walking.
Halfway up hills.
And, it's technical riding. It's not, for a first time, if you haven't been on a bike in 20 years, I would start on the road before I'd move to gravel. But it's been really fun, and I think it's done a couple things for us. One, we've gotten new people into the Pelotonia community. We've made this addition for people that wanted to do more. So a lot of people do Ride Weekend and Gravel Day. It's opened up another volunteer experience. So for people that ride and Ride Weekend, a lot of the Gravel Day volunteers we have are Ride Weekend riders.
Oh, okay, that makes sense.
And someone like Mike Perry, who is one of our diehard riders, is volunteers on Gravel Day. Like, it's awesome. So it's done that for us. It's also let our team flex a muscle that we thought we had, but we needed to confirm. Could we pull off another large-scale event, basically back-to-back from Ride Weekend? Our team has done it brilliantly. And it's been really fun for our team because what a lot of people don't realize is, opening ceremony on Ride Weekend, it's 15,000 people. And so how do you cook? How do you feed? How do you do drinks? How do you do sort of entry and exit way? How do you do music? How do you do gift distribution, packet pickup for 15,000 people walking in and out, parking, all this stuff, right?
It's you do it so well, it seems easy.
It's not. It's not. And so you scale that down to, call it 500 people in total during a day, and our food options, look different. Our drink options look different. The way we can activate the space, it was like a blank canvas for our team. And as we were developing the first Gravel Day event, we were like, wouldn't it be cool if, like, almost everything started with, wouldn't it be cool if insert blank? And then like a week later, we'd figure out how to do it. So last year, we added camping. And it was like, because we had 3 people that showed up for the first Gravel Day, and they were the first ones there on Saturday morning. And we were like, how'd you get here so early? They're like, oh, we came last night. We camped. We're like, oh, that's cool. I wonder if anyone would camp. So last year we added camping. We planned for 15 people to camp. We had 75 people camp. And so it's just, wouldn't it be cool if insert blank? And
wow, that must have been a fun evening for those 75 people.
Oh, it was so fun. It was so fun. I was there for all the festivities, and then I went to a hotel. But like, if there's, I think, a way that we think about Pelotonia's addition and evolution, it's, wouldn't it be cool if insert blank? Like, what is that?
Well, wait a minute. I have a feeling someone said, wouldn't it be cool if we added a run walk?
That happened.
Yeah. So
that happened.
How did that come about? Well, someone said that.
Exactly that. You know me well enough. I don't think I've run more than a mile in years. But look, it's something we hear all the time. I don't ride a bike. If Pelotonia ever did a run, I'd be in, right? Or if Pelotonia ever did a walk, I'd be in. And one of the reasons we've struggled with it is there's a lot of 5Ks. What makes them unique? I don't know. I haven't done very many. There's 2 great, amazing marathons in Columbus, right? One in the spring, one in the fall, Cap City, and then Nationwide Children's. And part of Pelotonia's brand is it's different, it's differentiated. And how do you do that in, call it a market that has a lot of things? So for us, we'd actually thrown around 2 years ago the idea of bringing a full-scale run into Ride Weekend. Most people don't know this. So we did a ton of work. How do we bring a 5 or 10K into Ride Weekend that would go off after the riders leave?
From the same starting point downtown.
Start. And what we realized was that over time that probably cannibalizes some of the experience for the riders, and just didn't feel like Pelotonia. So what happened was last year we're at the start line, the start and finish line for Gravel Day, and the owner of the property, her name is Mickey, owns this beautiful property in Nelsonville, just casually mentions she's got a ton of trails on her property that had been cut years before, and they're hiking trails, but some people use them for running and all this stuff. So like, oh, that's interesting. Like, that would be a different way to do sort of a run. So it actually started internally for us as, let's do a timed 5K run, because that's like the playbook for something like that. You do a timed 5K run. Well, we didn't want to time anything because that's not part of Peloton. It's not a race. And why limit it at 5K? And so what we're going to have this year is a 3 to 4 mile course through the woods that at the base of it is very hikeable. Like, it'll be a very beautiful, fun hike. Go walk for an hour, 2 hours, whatever it takes. But it's runnable, it's walkable, and we're going to just leave it open for a period of time, probably 5 or 6 hours.
Oh, so you can go around more
So you
than
can go
once.
around, and because as we started socializing this, hey, we're going to do this 5K, run, walk, hike. People were like, that's cool, but I would run for 5 hours. There's a tremendous amount of people that like running at a far distance. I would run for 5 hours if you let us. And we're like, well, what's stopping us from letting people, right? And so that's where this has evolved from.
Because the gravel ride itself could take the same amount of time. So you'll have people there, infrastructure there.
Infrastructure's already there, yeah. We know that there will be people that go out, they ride 30 miles, gravel day, they come back and they go run or hike. And so, some people have joked all we need to do is dig a pond and we can have the Pelotonia triathlon. We're not doing that.
Okay.
Not yet.
Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. But we penciled in 75 people. If we could get 75 people to come out and run or hike. I don't actually like using the term run because I don't run.
Me neither.
Hiking,
That's why
we've really struggled with this. And so we've said, it's a Pelotonia on foot. Like, we've really struggled with, like, how do you talk about it so that when you say hike, runners don't feel excluded? If you say run or a race, right, people are going to think they can't walk it. Like, so we just have resorted to saying all the words all the time. Run, walk, hike.
Run, okay.
And
that's a good idea.
We've got over 200 people signed up for it. Already.
And it's going to go up.
And it's going to go up. We had 50 people signed up the very first day of registration for it. Our minds were blown. And it's awesome. And we're going to learn a ton from it. And we're going to add on to the experience next year. And because that's just how we keep doing things.
Wow. Say that number again. 200 people?
200 people are signed up.
Wow. Who could be on the trail for up to 5 hours doing laps.
This will be fun. There's be like a rest stop out there. Like, it's going to be awesome.
There's a rest stop halfway. And a porta-john.
Yeah, everything that you would see on ride weekend from a rest stop, you'll see on this trail.
A policeman at the corners?
No, we don't need policemen on the trail because it's a close course.
Wow. Okay, so I just love this idea of bringing in more people, and you're doing these kids rides, which is bringing in the next generation of Pelotonia riders, hikers, walkers, runners.
Yeah.
So fill us in on how that started and where that is.
Yeah. The kids program has been one of my favorite things that we've launched. So over a number of years, really starting basically a decade back, this young gentleman, Nathaniel Hopping, lives in Granville. He's now old enough actually to ride in Ride Weekend, which he did last year with his dad. But he had come to Doug Ullman in our office way back in the day, probably about 10 years ago. Suit, tie, he was this young little kid at the time, and he had this idea to start a kids ride. And so he did a little kids ride and got the elementary school kind of fired up to do it in Granville and raise some money. And over time, there's been a couple others. So Pedal for Pancakes is a ride that happens in Bexley that's been going on for a few years. Pelotonia Kids in Upper Arlington was a ride that Sarah Jane and Paul Germain started a few years ago. And as we looked at it, these events were so fun to go to. Like, there's nothing better than showing up to an event and these kids, they've got like a closed course, they're ready to ride. Like, these young kids, a 5-year-old riding in Pelotonia Kids takes it so seriously, and they're so all in. It's so fun.
There's nothing better than watching kids have fun.
No, it's the best. And so as our team experienced this in these couple of rides, it became really clear that there's something here, and how do we put something together that can be elevated to the broad community, that can feel like part of our organization. It's also really hard for our team to operationalize something like that. So it's our really first program where, we're sort of arm's length away. We provide support, a lot of the materials, the trusts, some of the expertise, help with insurance, but we don't actually organize and do all the...
So it's up to communities,
it's volunteer-led.
And Pelotons, which are teams of riders, and they're doing it.
Yeah, and they're doing it. And so we'll have, I think, probably 12 or 14 rides this year. And what's really fun is, kudos goes to leadership at the James for this. We've got one of the best children's hospitals in the world right down the street at Nationwide Children's Hospital. And you've got kids out raising money. How cool would it be if their money supported oncology research at Nationwide Children's in partnership with the James? The James and Nationwide Children's have an amazing partnership anyway. Most of the researchers at Nationwide Children's are faculty here at Ohio State. There's a lot of shared services that they have clinically. And, leadership from Nationwide Children's and the James came together and said, let's build this program to let all the fundraising go to Nationwide Children's. And that's been really, really fun to see. I think it's built some more bridges around town in a really good way. It's, it aligns the fundraising better for the kids to say, look, this is going to help other kids in our town. And it's been so fun to watch. My dream for it is it continues to grow. I think it can be a huge program for us over time. I think Team Huntington did, I think it was in May, an amazing kids ride at their headquarters at Easton. And so it's, like a closed parking lot situation. I think there was over 200 kids at the event. It was so fun, but it was like employee engagement for them, right? Like all these employees brought their kids, and it was so fun on a Saturday. So I think there's a ton of potential there. And I think more to come on that. I think it's going to continue to grow. But it's one of my favorite things is to show up at a kid's ride and be a dad, right? Not have to worry about, all the little details. Just show up and be a dad and watch my daughter ride, and all these kids have fun.
Okay. So Pelotonia always kicks off with an opening ceremony with speakers, with sometimes music. I hear you have a pretty big guest this year at opening ceremonies.
Yeah, OAR is going to perform. So Columbus roots, Jerry, their saxophonist, actually lives in Worthington. I think the rest of their band lives between D.C. and New York City. Most of the guys in the band, I think there's probably 5 or 6 people in the band, went to Ohio State.
Oh.
Yeah, so back in the 90s, went to Ohio State, and we're playing together, doing gigs. Some of them are alumni now, from the band, but they kind of blew up in late 90s, early 2000s. They've got a bunch of songs that you'd probably recognize, Crazy Game of Poker and a couple other ones. They're celebrating their 30th anniversary as a band next year. I think it's going to be the most fun opening ceremony we've had. I think their vibe is perfect for our opening ceremony, our community. There's way more OAR fans than I realized. As we've socialized this in town, people are so excited, and it's just a perfect way to kick off the weekend.
So maybe people are going to ride just so they can.
I know for a fact.
Really?
I know for a fact people are going to ride just so they can come to opening ceremony, and it's all you can eat and drink, and it's a private concert, so it's good value.
Unless you live in the penthouse of that apartment building.
Those two condos, the balconies of those two condo buildings will be full that night. I guarantee that.
Wow! So I'm looking forward to that. So. All right, so you and your team and from the members of the community are saying, wouldn't it be great if, so what's next?
I think there's opportunity for us to bring more in-person experiences to people that are not physical activity events. And so we've started to do that over the last few years. Night of Impact, which used to be the check presentation, right? So this Night of Impact event, I think last year was a fantastic event. The last couple of years, it's been really good. Had great attendance. The programming's been good. The food's been good. We've started sort of some other events that are, specifically geared towards captains, or we've started a high roller event 2 years ago to reward sort of our highest fundraisers. I think there's other segments of the community that we could do really, really great events for. And so we're working on a couple of those ideas now. I think personally, I'm going to get in trouble for saying this from our team, but something really passionate that I want to do. I want to do like a survivor night. I want to do an event.
That's a great idea.
For survivors and like they're like that person in their life who is like their special guest, might be their caregiver, like somebody. Like, how do you celebrate that? And you think about how powerful it is to wear the survivor jersey on ride weekend. And I've seen it hundreds of times. You ride behind someone's wearing a survivor jersey, and a stranger rides up and they instantly start talking, and this person gets to share their story. But ride weekend in a lot of ways is a celebration of survivorship for a cancer survivor. It's another year around the sun, hopefully healthy, thriving after a cancer diagnosis. Might be another year that they saw things that they had a moment in their life they never thought they would see that day again, right? And it's like happening again and again. And so I think there's an opportunity for us to do something really magical for survivors and kick off the year. And
if anyone has ideas to how to help Joe and the team make that happen, send them
my way.
Because that's a great idea, because we should honor and cherish our survivors, because that's why we ride.
Yeah.
So there are more and more survivors.
Yeah,
so.
and I think we're in a really fortunate position as an organization. We have an amazing set of funding partners. We have an amazing community that comes out year after year. We have an amazing set of new people that come, into our community. And we don't have to, as an organization, think about every single new thing we do as how to drive another penny, right? We want to raise more money because we know the investment in research at the James has amazing ROI. It is saving lives. But we can also invest in stewardship, in thanking people, and gratitude. And I think those doing stewardship really well, doing gratitude really well, just bringing people to a space to exist and not ask for something, I think goes a really long way. I love going somewhere where it's really fun and someone doesn't ask you for anything. You just get to go have fun, right? Like, how do we create more of those spaces? Because those people are the people that are going to show up for the next 10 or 15 years. And so I think that's an opportunity for us, which is, it's a little bit back to basics. How do you just constantly get back to basics and do the small things really well? And you do the small things really well, the big things fall into place, and you're positioned to try new things. And our team's done an amazing job of that over the last few years.
Okay. Well, I'm excited for this year's Pelotonia. And before we go, one last question. Maybe, we've talked about $300 million and the funding, and as you've said repeatedly, it's not just the money, it's the people. So what's a story of you that you remember of just connecting with someone at a ride or at a Pelotonia event that just really meant a lot to you and reinforced why you do what you do?
Oh man, there's so many. I think a lot of what's happening right now, and you see it on ride weekend. There will be people who ride this year. There's people that rode last year, who, had they been diagnosed with the exact same cancer and the exact same diagnosis when Pelotonia started, or even 5 or 10 years ago, might not be here.
Yeah.
Right? I mean, might not actually be alive. And here they are at opening ceremony, beer in their hand, pop in their hand, water, whatever's in their hand, right? Eating food, watching a concert, connecting with people. And they're having a day they never thought they would have. And so there's a guy a couple years ago who had sarcoma, was taken care of at the James, and his doctor literally said to him, "Had I seen you 2 years ago, I would have sent you home and had you make sure your estate was in order. But this year you're going to be okay." And he's going to ride for the 5th year this year. He's got a team, of other people that support him and ride with him. And, we have volunteers like that, volunteers who have had a recurrence of their cancer. And, 15 years ago when they had their first cancer, it was the scariest thing in the world. And now they have a recurrence, and they have this level of confidence going into their their new cancer journey because of Pelotonia, because of the James and the research that's happening and the care they're getting. And, you know, I get to talk to a lot of physicians, a lot of the researchers. One of the coolest things, I mean, my next door neighbor is a surgeon at the James, and the way he talks about new robotic technology and things that are happening in the OR that are saving people's lives that just a couple years ago like did not exist. Like the way a physician or a researcher talks about their work with such excitement is so inspirational, because the reason that's happening is they're seeing things that they never thought they would see in their career, and they're getting to save people's lives who they never thought they would have a chance to save. And it's happening literally every single day next door. You know, we're in Pryor Hall, so right down the road at the James. Yep. It's happening every single day.
Yeah, and in this 17 years since Pelotonia started, the advances have been amazing, and you and everyone who's ridden, volunteered, contributed has been a part of it.
Yeah, exactly.
That's pretty
That's
cool.
the power.
Wow. Well, thank you, and I'll see you in August.
Yeah, see ya.
This podcast is brought to you by the Ohio State University Comprehensive Cancer Center, Arthur G. James Cancer Hospital, and Richard J. Solove Research Institute. For more information, check out our website, cancer.osu.edu.